Thank you for joining us on tonight's episode of the Second Chance Queen podcast. I get to interview the incredible Sara Dukart, who is a SASH sister from the International Miss System. Last year, we competed together and we both were able to place in the top 10, which was incredible. So we are so excited to be returning together again. This year, I am International Mrs. Florida and she is International Mrs. Midwest 2025. Sara Dukart fully believes in the importance of volunteering and giving back. Her passion has been devoted to mental health and suicide prevention. She has volunteered with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention for the past 10 years and sits on the board of directors for North Dakota. She also co-chairs the advocacy committee and lobbies for mental health on a state and national level. She chairs the healthcare committee with AFSP ND chapter and has worked alongside the national team to help change policy and programs. Last year alone, she was able to personally train over 700 clinicians in suicide prevention through an AFSP program on a volunteer basis. As a suicide attempt survivor as an adolescent, she's become dedicated to educating and providing resources with the message of hope. She developed the platform Hope Through Help to decrease the stigma and educate on mental health and suicide prevention. She started the I Care, You Matter movement back in 2015, and that is the simple concept of spreading hope and kindness with snail mail. Her movement has now expanded nationally and internationally with ambassadors on 3 continents and throughout the United States. Please join me in welcoming Sara Dukart. Welcome to the Second Chance Queen podcast. I am super excited to have a SASH sister on here, so we are going to have so much fun tonight. I would love for you to kick off tonight's episode by sharing your most memorable, pivotal second chance moment in your life. If you had to choose one that kind of changed everything for you, what would that second chance be?
Yeah, looking back, it would definitely be a youth pastor who I had really confided in, and it was after my suicide attempt as an adolescent, and I was living in foster care, and so I had already felt like a burden and that, hopeless, and she was able to show me that it wasn't, and life, one action or past doesn't define you, and she gave me hope. And so that was the pivotal moment in my life that things slowly but started to improve for me, because one person believed in me that I was a good person and I could do good, because I to my core did not believe that. And so that was my second chance, that I could be happy in life.
I love that, and I know that you have done incredible things with that second chance. Just introducing the listeners with your bio, we got to go over a little bit, but I know you work a lot with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and you're huge in that organization, so kudos to you for that, but also your platform. So tell me a little bit more about Hope Through Help.
Yeah, so Hope Through Help, I wanted there to be a platform for multiple different things, but my number one thing is sharing your story. It's so important for people to share their stories so that, one, you are letting other people know they're not alone, because a lot of people feel isolated no matter what it is, right? Like domestic violence or mental health. But I also wanted a place that people had resources, easy ways to find help if they needed help. And then I also incorporated my I Care, You Matter, which I started way back in 2015, but kind of catapulted it when I got back into pageantry. And it's been so much fun. And I found that kids are loving it so much. And it's so fun to see their creativity and who do they want that card to go to, or do they let me keep it and I can give it out to somebody. And the You Matter is just the simple concept of sending snail mail to somebody to let them know that they matter.
I absolutely love your platform. I feel like ours are very similar with Flutters of Hope Project and your platform being, snail mail. It's been a lot of fun to incorporate. I feel like it's easy to use Flutters with your snail mail.
Yes.
And it's easy to use, the letters and incorporate Flutters. So I love that we're able to kind of bounce back and forth and use both of those things. It's really fun. And I'd love to know what prompted you to use snail mail, because we're in such an age that's starting to move so digitally.
Yes.
So I love that you do use snail mail, but I want to know from you why you chose to go that route.
I think it's so much more personable. I think of what do I feel like when I get a handwritten, note or card. I was like, they took the time to, one, do it and then mail it. So it just feels more sincere than like a text message or an email. So I really wanted it to be purposeful and meaningful. So snail mail is what I went with. And plus it was a very cute logo, like the little snail with his little satchel. I like to try and keep things light as well, because it is more of a heavy topic that my platform is about.
I love your snail with the satchel. He is so adorable. Are you currently recruiting for ambassadors? If somebody wants to join the I Care You Matter movement, tell us more about how they would join that and what that entails.
Yes, I am recruiting. Right now we have ambassadors in the United States and we have 3 international ambassadors. And so I'm trying to expand as far as, we can go. So if somebody is interested, I have an email that I'll send out. So you can find Hope Through Help on Instagram. So it's, at Hope Through Help 1. And then you can find us also on Facebook. It'll be I Care You Matter Movement. So either one of those platforms, you can send a message on there and just say, hey, I'm interested. I'll send you an email that just fully explains it. I do have 2, just plain ambassador, which just means they're involved, can send a card here or there. And then I have a lead ambassador position, which is you are promising to send out 12 letters, so like 1 letter a month for the year, and then also kind of help promote on social media, like you're posting that you're sending it. I do send out starter kits for people that want to be a lead ambassador, and I also include other things. So I always, like you said, us collaborating, as much as you can collaborate with other people, because so many people are doing amazing, amazing things, and we all can work together, right? And so I have, Flutter stickers, I have patent hearts, I have 988 tokens, I have AFSP suicide prevention, like pocket cards, so lifesaver information, just basic stuff. And so I include all of that in my starter kit. And then you can decide if you want to include it in your cards or not, but it's just a great way to kind of, collaborate with so many other platforms.
I love that. And the collaboration between so many of them. You and I have a very similar outlook, I think, in this collaboration over competition mentality, where we're very much like, how can we work together? How can we, help each other up the ladder, because there's space for everybody up at the top. So
Absolutely.
I love competing with, I always say competing with, I don't like saying competing against, but I love competing with people like yourself that are very collaborative and interactive, because to me, it makes pageantry so much more fun when you're working together and you're finding ways to kind of intertwine different things. And the more success one thing has, the more success the others will have. And it can really help everybody kind of grow. So I absolutely love that. I just actually got an idea that I'm going to talk to you after this episode.
Love it.
I think it could help with I Care You Matter. So I'm super excited about that. So stay tuned to see even more collaboration between us, because this is a really cool idea. I would love to hear in your own words what you feel your catalyst has been.
Yeah, I've had quite a few bumps and different roadblocks in my life, and resilience to me is that I never give up. No matter how hard and difficult and sad maybe I'm feeling, I know that I wake up the next day, it's a new day, and there is always hope. So keeping a positive outlook was a game changer for me. And I never was the woe me type person, but I held on to a lot of my demons. And until I was able to fully accept, not necessarily forgive everything that happened, but forgive myself, because I held a lot of guilt, even though it wasn't my fault. But once I did that, freedom. I felt freedom. And so, not that life is still great all the time. I have hard things that I've gone through, but I've never let them stop me. I just keep climbing.
That's the important part. And I absolutely love that advice. I think it's really imperative. And I heard you mention in the beginning of the episode that you were a foster child. And is there any sort of resource that you would like to see for other foster kids, or anything that could help in that situation? Because I can imagine that's very difficult for mental health in general. And you're starting your life with kind of this question mark around your identity in an essence. So is there any resource or advice or something you would like to say to maybe help foster kids in a similar situation that you were in when you were younger?
So I feel like this is a God moment because I actually have been developing a program, and it's called the Anchor Project. It will be released on YouTube, but it's a 10-series program specifically for foster children and mentors. How do we help these kids that are struggling? And so one thing I'm going to say is that kids just need to be reminded over and over again, they're not bad, right? That it wasn't their fault. Like, a lot of times kids are taken out of homes because of drugs and alcohol, but those kids feel guilty, right? Of why would they choose drugs and alcohol over me? They're too young. They don't understand it's a disease, right? So I think that the more that we are constantly reminding them that they're not bad, because a lot of times kids are going to react out and maybe have more difficult behavior than a kid who's not in foster care. But the more that they feel like they're a burden or they're bad, they're going to just continue to revert in and not want to open up to other people. The other thing is that a lot of times, like myself, these kids are going to attach to a mentor. So is it a coach? Is it someone in church? Is it a family friend? That one person is probably going to be really someone that can help build them up. And that's why I really wanted to develop this program, because people are like, I don't know how to help them. Like, oh my gosh, they've been through so much. Like, what am I going to be able to do for them? So this just kind of helps lay out things that are helpful, things to try and not do, and then resources specifically for foster kids. I feel like it's an area, though, that still lacks a lot of support. I've always felt that foster support groups would be so important. These kids just want to be able to talk about what they're going through, but other people aren't going to be able to relate or understand. And then also, it's a safe place. If other kids are all in foster care like themselves, they're not going to feel as judged or guilty, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sounds like an amazing, well-needed resource. So I'm super excited to see you launching that. That is very cool. The foster system is something that I think still has a very long way to go. I know one of the people in my life that is very near and dear to me, one of the closest people to me, was a foster child who has had a lot of struggles in life because of that, and carries a lot of that guilt and felt like a bad child, and then in turn felt like a bad person. And they've done a lot of work to get away from that mentality and try to atone. But it's so sad to think that they feel like they're atoning for something that was not their fault.
Yeah.
And so it's just heartbreaking. So knowing that there's a resource potentially that's coming out that could help other children from winding up in that similar sort of headspace, I think is super important. So I'm so excited for that. I think that is absolutely incredible. And
Thank you.
I love how your past, of course. I love how your past and what you went through also shaped the future work that you've done. Obviously, being a foster kid had a lot to do with your mental health. And now you're such a huge mental health advocate. Do you have like a full circle kind of feeling sometimes? Does it hit you? Because I see the things that you do with the AFSP and I'm like, this girl is amazing. So do you still struggle sometimes in recognizing your progress, or are you finally at a place now where you see the impact you're making?
I've always had a hard time being like, oh, you're doing a lot. You're doing such a good thing. I don't like that. And so I'm learning to accept it. I think one thing for me, I do feel like I have fully come to a healing place, but there will be certain things that can set me back. And so I'm just gonna be very honest. I had a closed adoption, records I couldn't have access till when I was 18. My adoptive parents held on to them and they just gave them to me last year. And reading through that stuff, that set me back. Finding out that my birth mom drank and smoked with me until she was like 36 weeks pregnant. Different things like that. But also some of the, being in foster care and some of the write-ups about that, it just kind of solidified how some people viewed me versus other people. And I was like, okay, Sarah, this is a lot to comprehend. And so what I did, instead of just keeping it all to myself, I brought all my documents to my best friend and we just kind of went through it, and I was able to just kind of digest with her my feelings. And I had somebody who loves me and was validating me that it's okay to feel the way I was feeling, but also that was wrong too. So that was so helpful. So yes, there are things that'll come up or happen that I feel do set me back a little bit, but not a setback where I feel like I would ever, go back to being hopeless, if that's a good way to say that.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I feel like you are kind of similar to me. I also struggle with having accomplishments or, doing things and feeling like patting myself on the back. It's very uncomfortable for me. I'm one of those people where, my husband will say, "Oh my God, that's so amazing." And I'm like, "Thanks." Yeah. I guess I should receive it better. That's something I'm definitely working on, but I'm just not super comfortable with that. I do the things I do because I want to help, not for the accolades.
Yeah.
And what you're describing is very similar. It's that discomfort with that recognition. So you're doing all these things behind the scenes, but you're doing it because it's in your heart, not because of the recognition portion. So It makes sense. And I'm glad that I'm sorry that you had setbacks, but I'm glad that you were able to kind of find a coping mechanism in going through it with your best friend and being able to process those feelings. And I think it brings up a really important point that people need to hear, and that's healing is not linear. I am such a fan of that phase because I've learned that it is so true. You can think you were healed and then something will happen and it's just like, ooh, that stings a little bit. I think it's important to normalize talking about those setbacks like you did and bringing it up, because like your whole platform, sharing your story is how other people, can relate and you can make an impact in that way. So thank you for sharing that. That is incredibly deep, and I cannot imagine what that felt like processing that. But you definitely are a strong woman, so you've made it this far. Do you feel that your history and your past and the things that you've been through, obviously a huge part of my platform is confidence. So do you feel like those things affected your confidence, and what type of advice would you give somebody kind of coming out of that space, needing to build their sense of identity and confidence up?
Oh, 100%. That is probably the biggest thing I had to work on personally, was self-worth and confidence. Even just probably a couple years ago, I still didn't fully believe that I deserved to be where I was at, and always was concerned of, if I said this thing, who might it hurt or upset, or I was always trying to protect everybody, and I'm done with that. I need to be 100% authentic, and that's when my confidence just flourished, because I'm not caring anymore if somebody in way back when I lived in that foster home, and I say something about what happened and that it might hurt or offend anybody. No, because it's truth. It's what happened, and it's how I feel, right? And so I will say, you always have that little negative voice, or little, the angel devil, I guess is a good analogy. Of course, I have times where it starts coming back and I'm self-doubting myself. And then I'm like, okay, but look at yourself right now and look back even just 4 years ago. Okay. All right. I'm doing good things, and so example is, my adoptive parents, my parents, they are not supportive of pageantry, like at all. They usually don't come to my pageants. And so you'll see that. But I used to always feel like, oh, they think that this is all just about beauty and, just showing yourself. And even though I try to have like very in-depth conversations about, no, this is about philanthropy and like giving back and, building confidence and meeting amazing women from all over the world. And I'll never change their views. I had to change my view that bothered me so much, right? So I've accepted, okay, but I have people who completely support me, right? And that's what matters, is that even if I didn't have anyone supporting me, I have people out in the community who have told me like I've made such a difference in their life. Okay, great. That is what drives me and what pushes me forward.
I am so sorry to hear that you don't have that support. I'm sure that would or could make a difference for you, but the fact that you've been able to overcome that and still do as amazing as you are and kind of come to that place of acceptance is so important. And I think that will help definitely drive you forward. And something you just said totally reminded me of one of my favorite quotes. And it was something I had to embrace, is that other people's opinions of me are none of my business. And that sounds so funny, but I had to really realize that what other people thought of me or what I was doing or whatever, it didn't matter, because as long as I was happy with what I was doing, then that's, what it needs to be. So something that you said reminded me of that. And sometimes I feel like we all need a reminder of that. Like, what you
Absolutely.
think is none of my business. You think it, I'm good. So I think that's super important for people to hear. And I love that you brought that up. And I think it takes a huge amount of strength to have people that are very important in your life that are not supportive of something and still make that decision that you want that for yourself. So I really commend you for that, because that is huge. And I think girls around the world need to see that, because there are so many times in our life as women where we may not have that support system, and we need to be able to do it for ourselves. And you're doing that. So kudos to you for that. I absolutely love that. I am a huge proponent of people practicing self-care. That is a huge part of my platform, my confidence building method that I teach. It's the very first step. So I would love to hear what your favorite version of self-care is.
It is a big range. So I am like you. I am a go-getter, do, take on more. And I thrive on that. I really do. That's when my best ideas, my best work happens. But then I get burnout. So self-care for me is, one, prioritizing what is most important and necessary. But two, allowing myself to do all the things, but then also step back and do nothing. Like I need a reset day every once in a while. Maybe I'm laying in bed watching shows for hours and hours and just snuggling with my kids and being like, nope, this is totally fine that I'm doing this. Like my body and my mind need this rest. And, you know, everyone's like, well, just don't keep taking things on. Well, easier said than done. But I I fully love like what I'm doing. I have realized too, though, when I do have to say no, I used to feel like if I say no, then other things are going to change or be bad. And no, people respect you so much more when you can set boundaries. So boundaries is a self-care for me. That's been huge. Letting go of guilt has been huge. Bed rot is fine if you do it every once in a while. And then I've gotten into sourdough. So I have been so into like baking and trying new things, and I love it. So I try every weekend to make something new.
If you can find a way to smuggle sourdough to New York City in a couple weeks, I am all on board with that, because that sounds amazing and I'm such a carb person. So I will be like, hey Sarah, do you have any of that sourdough?
It's like, I'm just bringing the whole loaf in my suitcase. It's fine.
We'll make it work. It's fine. Yeah. But I love that you found that. That's so much fun. It's a unique self-care too.
I know. And I feel like you and I are very similar, and we get new interests, new hobbies like frequently. And so
thanks, ADHD.
Yeah. Woo! So my husband just fully supports me because he's like, okay, here's Sarah's next thing. But
same. I love that he's supportive. My husband actually was making a joke to me last night, because I have this certain face that I get, and sometimes I'll just walk in the room and I'll make that face, and I'm about to say, I have an idea, and he'll go, let me guess, you have an idea. And so it's become this running joke. I'll just like walk in the room and he goes, oh God. There's always an idea or some sort of weird question that comes out of my mouth. So yeah, we are very similar in that. Like, you've got sourdough, I've got spray painting rainbows right now. And you know, who knows where we'll be in a couple months, but I love that. I had to become okay with becoming this, it was called a multi-passionate person. I found this whole thing about being a multi-passionate person and how you're not perfect at one thing, but you acquire being, you know, decent at a lot of things. And it used to drive me nuts about myself until I realized how much of a superpower it is. Yeah. And I feel like you're the same way. Like we acquire all of these skills.
I have to just tell you this because you're going to think this is hilarious. So I'm in my basement and I can see the fence, and two squirrels just ran by chasing each other. And I'm like, what is that? I was like, that's a true squirrel moment right there.
That is the epitome of a squirrel moment. They were just demonstrating our brains. That's us on the fence. That is so funny. I'm going to like get you a stuffed squirrel or something. Please. And bring it in January. Because I don't know that I'll remember by September, but January. If I show up to International Miss prelims with a squirrel, I'm going to be like, guys, this is for Sarah.
We have to find one that's like magnetic or something though, so that they're like, the two squirrels can like be together.
So cool. Oh my God. Mission unlocked. I'm totally going to be Googling that after this. If you became famous tomorrow and had a published quote, what do you think it would be?
So it's one that I've always loved, and it really helped me when I was an adolescent struggling, but it still is so true to my life right now, is one step at a time. That's it. Because we live in such a busy world and we're doing so many things and we have so many responsibilities, and there's times that I'm just like, I can't do it all. I am so burnt out. When I start getting anxious is when I know like things are building for me. And then I'm like, okay, just this 1 minute. Okay, get through the next 8 hours. Okay. And then things start to get better, right? Like they do, they get better, you know, and we have to do some things to help out. But that would be my quote.
I feel like It's so raw and honest to share this side of yourself as a pageant queen, because a lot of times, especially when you're in competition mode, right? We're coming up on a couple months to competition, and you start seeing, I have to tune out everybody else's social media because I'm not one of those girls that can be creeping on everybody's page. Like, I don't want to know what you're doing. My blinders are on. I just need to focus on what I'm doing. But in pageantry, there is such this, you have to have it all together appearance in my eyes. Like, so many title holders, you sit there and you wonder, how is she doing all of this? How is she balancing all of this? And I used to wonder that a lot. And this year, I feel like I've been going so much that it's like, I've had friends be like, how are you doing all of this? And you make it look easy. And I'm like, there's a side of me that's like, oh, well, I want it to look easy because that's what a good title holder does. You know, they make it look easy. Yeah. But then there's this other side of me that wants to be raw and vulnerable and be like, this is the hardest thing I've done in a very long time. And I'm very much like you, where I'm balancing all of these things, and I get to that burnout stage like you do. And I think talking about that, especially as women, as moms, as title holders, is so important, because having this facade of being perfect at everything is what makes it feel so attainable for others, or unattainable for others. Yeah. And that just kind of reminded me that sometimes we need to have these conversations and share that it does cause burnout, and it is difficult because people need to know the honest truth that, you know, it may look like we're handling it all with grace, but we're also bed rotting because we've put 15,000 things on our schedule and we just need to relax a little bit. So I think I needed that reminder. So thank you for giving me that reminder, because I've been playing my farming game all day today.
Oh my gosh, you farm?
Yeah, it's Farm Together too. I've been, oh, do you really? I've been playing Farm Together too with my husband and best friend, like all day yesterday and all day today. And that's been like, I'm riding on my tractor in my happy place. Fun fact about pageant queens, we farm. We're farmers, but it's like how I zone out, you know? I'm just, all I care about is this row of crops in front of me. And that's my bed rot equivalent. So I love that you can relate to that. That makes me laugh, actually. But I needed to hear that message that it's okay to do those things. And, you know, I think having a childhood the way that you experienced with, you know, being a foster child and the complex emotions from a very young age that you've been through. And I, growing up, felt a lot of pressure to achieve academically and, you know, straight A's, top of the class. You know, I was always pushing myself to that next thing. And then I had, you know, my 10-year span where I experienced the domestic violence that I went through. And I felt like I got pushed so far back. So then once I found pageantry, it was like, okay, now I have an outlet to bring out that overachiever again, right? I'm going to bring her back out. I'm going to get back into my groove. And I started to rack up these accolades and put these things behind my name. Oh, she does this. She founded this. She does this. And I started to get addicted to that feeling of what else can I add to this list of accomplishments? Yeah. And I feel like that's what a lot of us experience. So how do you feel like, have you found a tip to kind of combat that? Do you experience that same like pressure to like have all of those accolades lining up to be your best self?
Yeah, and I feel like in pageantry, we've been so pushed to be numbers. How many people have you reached? How much this, how much that? And I've tried to really change my mind frame though, of being like, if I don't have 100,000, that's okay, because I still have things that are making a difference. So I'm trying to just focus on, one, what are my really important things that matter to me, not just with my platform, but in my life. And a lot of times it's all inclusive for me and you, right? And then it doesn't seem like work, even though we are. So I work 40 hours. I just took on a teaching position, which is another 10 hours a week. And I was doing like, how much am I volunteering? So I was like, you are volunteering a lot. I think it's like 20 hours a month. So yeah, you're gonna get burnt out doing that. So I'm really reflecting on what is so important to me. And maybe to one coach, they might be like, oh no, you need to be doing more of this. But I'm just trying to find my inner peace, because I feel that it will come out as confident and that I am solid in what I'm doing if I fully believe in it too, versus trying to achieve something that might not be attainable for me. But I also might not feel that that's the most important thing either.
I relate 100% because I feel like after International Ms. last year, we were next to each other up there. We were runners up together, and I felt such a fire after leaving International Ms. with, I'm sure you did too, getting so close. And I just had a plan. I mean, I hadn't taught a single workshop. I hadn't done anything towards my platform. I was brand new in pageantry. That was my, first year in the pageantry realm. So I was like, oh my God, I got so close with a plan. So we're going to hit the ground running, and we're not going to stop running until we get there next year. Well, we would be at, our pageant in a couple weeks, but now we have to sprint all the way to January. I don't know about you, but that feels a lot longer.
I want to say, if you want to look at, what's a good word for this? Not just dedicated, but being, it's more than faithful. I'm not coming up with the word, but we fully have supported International Miss, and we transitioned, right? So things changed for us too. And we didn't know right away, right? But I will say you and I have been the ones from right away after International Miss. And so typically a pageant is a year apart from each other. It's been a year and a half now for us that it's going to be when we compete again. So very different. But I think that shows who we are as people though too, right? We didn't just sign up for the international pageant. We kind of were sticking with our morals. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. We're two peas in a pod. We're on the same wavelength. We operate very similarly. Yes. I feel like we understand kind of each other. And I feel like in the long run, I only had like 3 months before International Ms. last year to really prepare. So now I'm like, okay, we've got a year and a half. You and I are like, okay, what can we do in a year and a half? Let's utilize that time.
It's been a lot.
I think those things have a way of working themselves out. It has.
Yes.
We're both like, I don't think we've stopped running, but no. I feel like, and I was listening to your Still She Rose live where you were very candid about burnout and all of the things that you're balancing right now. And I feel like I'm experiencing a very similar thing this month. August has been a shift for me personally because I was so focused on International Ms. for so long that I kind of hit this wall where I needed to refocus a little bit on my kids and what they needed from me and my family and building into a new routine with homeschooling and all of these different things. So August, I struggled with feeling like I wasn't doing enough for my title because I was focusing on my family and my home stuff. But you just really said something in how you wanted to present as, well-rounded and confident because you felt balanced. And I think that's really important because I realized, and I think you're the same way, bringing a balanced person to the judges is way better than just having this list of accolades. Yeah. So I feel like we're very similar in like, sometimes we both have to take a step back and be like, okay, well, I need to focus on this a little bit right now. And then we'll get back to, the grind here.
Yes.
I mean, we're 2 weeks away from New York Fashion Week.
I know.
I feel like we're going to be after that.
It'll be a good practice run for, running on fumes and being like, all right, we can do this. But I love that we get to do it together. So we're going to be rooming together.
Absolutely.
We're very excited.
I'm so excited. I'm like counting down because I feel like it's nice too that we get to experience all of it together and attend the internationals together and get, it's almost like a re-up. I feel like I'm getting like that, like you're in the final sprint. Now you've got, it's going to give us our second wind, and then we're going to be like, they're not going to see us coming in January. But it's going to be, what are they on? Yeah, no, life. It's going to be great. I feel like it's a good self-care trip.
It is.
It's like a working trip, but it's also like, we're going to have fun. We're going to practice self-care. It's going to be great, which, we're preaching to everybody they need to do. So full circle. I want to go back to confidence for a second, because one of my favorite things to do is to ask each person on my podcast what their definition of confidence is, because I feel like everybody has such a personal definition of confidence, and it can help the younger generation establish what confidence looks like for them. So for you, what would you say your confidence definition is?
Fully deserving of your life. So confidence is being that you're deserving of the relationships you have. You're deserving of your career. You're deserving of the accomplishments that you have in life. So to me, once I was able to give myself that I deserved what my hard work or just my happiness, right? Just being happy, was confidence for me. And it sounds a little different, but that is what it was for me. So.
No, I think that's a great definition. I mean, I feel like feeling deserving and accepting of those things is, like, for some people, the hardest part of building confidence. And I think that's a great definition, truly. I teach confidence classes, and literally my husband was telling me yesterday, like, you need to understand that you're worthy of these things. And I'm like, you're right. So I feel like that's a very accurate definition, to be honest. If you could name an honorary second chance queen besides myself, who would you name as an honorary second chance queen, and why?
To me, Essence. So, she was first runner up. And when we were at the pageant, she was somebody just like yourself that was just so real. I just felt like genuinely like she was happy for other people. She wanted other people to succeed. And she, that I've been at first runner up, and that is such a hard place to be at. But she hit the ground running, and not necessarily pageantry, right? Like, she launched her book and like was on a TV show and like tons of just amazing stuff. And I loved that so much about her, because she was like, I'm not letting that hold me back. I'm moving forward, and I'm going to do amazing things. And maybe she'll come back. I don't know. I love her.
I love her too. Essence was one of my carpool buddies that I drove in my car to our sisterhood outing, and I got to like really get to know her. So being in that, runner-up line with you and her was such a cool feeling, because I clicked very well with both of you, and I was like, it could be any one of us, and I'm so excited.
I know, exactly.
And I think that's such a testament to the caliber of women, though, at International Ms., because there was no drama, there was no cattiness, there was no any of that energy. We were all just kind of doing our own thing and bringing our own things to the table. Multitasking, love that. And I feel like that was so special about our system. And I'm excited to see the round of women that we compete with in January and how that dynamic looks. Because we had a great group of women last year.
We did.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. Are you a princess?
Yeah, she is a princess. She wears princess gowns almost every day to school.
Aw, I love that. That is so adorable. Now I miss mine. Although now she tells me, no, mommy, when I call her princess, she says, no, mommy, I a queen.
Oh, that a girl. She knows.
Right? I'm like, you're not even 3, girlfriend. Like, You're going to give me a run for my money. Is there anything that you want to say as like your parting message to everybody, the message that you really want to get out there, anything that we might not have covered in the episode? Is there anything that you want to share?
Platform has been so much about, positivity and those kind of things, but I want to bring light to the darkness. We're going to have somebody in our life that is going to struggle, and they're going to struggle a lot. And so I just want to say that being there for somebody, even in very small ways, is much bigger than you will ever know. And that there is light after the darkness. And you can feel hope and happiness again. So, and if somebody is struggling, they hear that, they probably won't believe it. But the more that we keep continuing to say that, and that there is people out there that care, and that there are resources, it will help to save somebody's life, because we just keep losing too many people to suicide. And that's my ultimate goal with my platform, is to help save as many lives as I can.
I think that is such an important message, and that is huge. And there are so many resources with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. If you are somebody that's struggling, Sarah and I definitely encourage you to reach out to your local chapter. There's the 988 hotline, which is an amazing asset for those that are struggling. I know in our town, they've now started putting metal signs all around our town that say 988 and have the hotline information on it. So that's a huge, exciting move that I've seen happening. That's been really cool to see. So definitely love your message.
Yeah, and if there's anyone listening that's from the LGBTQ community, we know that when you press option like veterans, non-veterans, and then they used to have LGBTQ, and that was cut recently, which is just so saddening. But the Trevor Project is trying to pick up for that, and so just know that the Trevor Project is there for you if you need somebody that just fully understands. Yeah.
That is a huge resource. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much to Sara for joining me on tonight's episode of the Second Chance Queen podcast. I'm so excited for our journeys with the International Miss System and competing together at the International Mrs. USA prelims in January 2026. As she showed tonight, juggling being a mother, a title holder, a physician, and someone that is changing lives on a daily basis. She truly is a powerhouse, and I am so honored and so excited to see what my Sash sister is able to accomplish. I will forever be in her corner, supporting her in everything that she does. So I hope that you enjoyed getting to know Sara as much as I love knowing Sara, and please follow Hope Through Help and the I Care You Matter movement. She is going to do incredible things, and that is where you can find her. She will also be tagged in this video. I'm Kristianna Mrjenovich, the Second Chance Queen, and remember, you always have a second chance. You just have to be willing to take it.